So in this segment, we're going to be discussing the UK potentially becoming a kind of testing ground for big pharmaceutical companies under the Labour government. So let's have a listen.
Do you find that
So this is the CEO of Eli Lilly.
regulation in the UK is holding you back from growing how you want to?
I think we find that in almost every developed economy, including the UK. I think the difference in the UK is, you know, on your own now, separate from Europe, it's a relatively small market.
So this is the important thing here. We've become a relatively small market. And so obviously as part of the EU for investment, we could have become a big manufacturing hub. I think for some of these pharmaceutical companies, Ireland is one that does manufacture a decent amount of pharmaceuticals. Obviously, with Ireland, their tax policies are much more different to ours. They're much lower, so that might be one of the kind of pull factors for companies such as this. Whereas with the UK being outside the EU single market, the only way we can kind of attract these companies is probably through deregulation or some sort of special tax breaks and things like that.
For most multinationals and certainly for Americans. So something needs to be quite different to make it interesting. And flexibility, agility, business responsiveness, of course, with an eye toward, in our case, ensuring that NHS and patient care is enhanced as well.
Flexibility, mobility, words that are code for deregulation, or giving them some sort of special access, special permissions to get whatever they want done.
You know, that's a path we would encourage.
Can the difference be made up? You talk about us being a smaller market now. Can we persuade you to make the kind of investments you might have made if we were part of a bigger market?
Well, I think so. If we had in a hypothetical world, a market of this size that really encouraged innovation, not just in investment, but in utilization.
Utilization, so they can actually use the drugs here.
Right, so that the system was set up to really take advantage of the breakthroughs in biomedical innovation, put them to work in the real world, study those effects so that globally that knowledge could be shared and really become kind of an incubator for access to these medications as well as utilization. That would be quite interesting because
this guy's so brazen. He's saying what he wants is basically a testing ground for these drugs so they can show to other countries that they're safe. That's what they want. They want to be able to test in a country like the UK because we have some decent prestige in the world still. I don't know if it's still there. Let me know. But they're going to use that as evidence to show that their drugs are safe, and they're going to use that to show other regulators from other countries that their medicines are okay and help them get through hurdles. So essentially, we're going to help them expand into the broader world.
Then we could point to such a market and say, look here, they get the picture. Not only do they want our inward investment, which every country wants, but they put their money where their mouth is and deliver both a high growth environment for the industry, but also one that is a health system built around the idea that next generation technology can make a better world for its people. And I think that's a promise to continue to pursue. And this announcement today is a step in that direction.
So the question is, what was promised to the CEO of Eli Lilly in order to get the investment that he's making within the UK? Because from what we've seen of Labour, they are very open to this.
Not cutting corners, not lowering standards, but making sure that
So not lowering standards, despite what the CEO of Eli Lilly said, talking about kind of agile regulations.
Government takes on some of the burden of compliance so that our nation can benefit.
We heard from the boss
What the hell's the burden of compliance?
of Eli Lilly on the programme earlier, David Rick, suggesting that's all very well, but if the NHS then, in the case, for example, of an innovative drug, says, no, we're going to hold the price down, no, we can't produce this new development, anti-obesity drugs, for example, there's not a lot of point. So you're willing to get rid of that red tape in order to allow those big US pharma giants to push their drugs into the health service quicker?
We are, Nick, and we're not just taking one step forward. Since we've come into government in the last couple of months, we're taking multiple steps forward. So for the first time ever, the Secretary of State for Health, Wes Streeting, has taken personal responsibility for spreading innovation through the NHS. That's the first time it's been a cabinet-level post. And it's great that the Chief Executive of Eli Lilly is here and that Eli Lilly is playing a key part in this investment summit because they have not invested freshly in our country for a very long time, and they now see this as a place to start doing business again.
So the question is, what has changed with Labour? If they're talking about no deregulation, what has really changed here?
This is really rather interesting, to use the language of the boss of Eli Lilly, Mr. Carl. He said to us, you really need to get quite different to make things interesting. I think what he's saying is that for what he called a small market, which Britain is now because we're no longer in the EU, you have to be willing to regulate less than the EU in order to make it worthwhile for investors to come here. Is that what you're saying today? You will regulate less than the EU in order to make Britain more attractive?
Actually, what I would say that you need to regulate smartly.
So his answer gets cut off there, but you want to regulate smartly, agile regulation. These are buzzwords for deregulation. That's what these are. We go on, like Labour are talking about giving people, unemployed, overweight people, Ozempic and drugs like that, which are kind of they're aimed for people with type 2 diabetes to help them manage their sugar levels. But apparently, famous celebrities have been using it to help with things like weight loss. But drugs like Ozempic and I think it's called Mounjaro could dramatically reduce demands, according to these news sites. The problem is it's not tested. It's not proven to do that yet. Ozempic is not approved for weight loss. And the problem with that, if the Labour start pushing these kind of meds onto people who are overweight, the people who actually do need the medicine won't be able to get them. That's one of the other problems. One of the chemicals in Ozempic, whilst it's a relatively new treatment developed in 2012, it was only just approved 5 years before for type 2 diabetes. And so one of the companies that actually makes these drugs is actually Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly's Mounjaro triggers weight loss. So what we are seeing is potentially the health secretary talking about giving overweight people that are unemployed Ozempic, and you have a situation where Eli Lilly, who makes one of these weight loss drugs, looking to invest in the UK. It's very strange, that, isn't it? Especially in the context of one of these weight loss drugs actually, killing someone. Oh, sorry, I forgot this video doesn't really play. So a woman in Sunderland has died after giving one of these so-called skinny jabs. They're the same jabs that Wes Streeting is prescribing to the jobless, while declaring harmless puberty blockers around for half a century as experimental. So it's very strange that he's kind of approved these drugs, despite the fact that they're not approved for weight loss, and that they're talking about giving these to people who are overweight. Wes Streeting has kind of pulled this back a little bit.
Research that you are backing is a trial looking at how weight loss drugs could potentially get obese people back to work. Is medicating the population more really the way to do it, do you think?
Look, I don't think that the answer to obesity is simply weight loss jabs, but there is a lot of evidence to suggest already, and I'm really excited about the trial that we'll be doing with Lilly. There's a lot of evidence.
With Lilly? Is that Eli Lilly you mentioned? The company that just looked at more investment in the UK?
Already that these jabs, combined with changes to diet and exercise, can help people to reduce their weight, but also prevent cardiovascular.
Do you know what would also help? Having more kind of public indoor football pitches, having more public swimming pools, having more access to facilities, things like parks, etc. Things that, activities that people can actually do. That would actually, I think, reduce weight in certain countries. Iceland, one of the ways they actually got a decent football team was building lots of indoor football pitches and encouraging people to play more. We don't have a lot of free facilities like that in the UK. That would actually help.
Vascular disease and also diabetes, which is game-changing. And for a lot of people, particularly people who are morbidly obese, they will tell you through bitter experience, even when they've tried to do the right thing, they find the challenge insurmountable. And these jabs can be a game changer on that. They're not the only solution, and I don't want to create a dependency culture. I also, by the way, should say, because there's been a lot of reaction to some of the things I've said this week, I'm also not interested in some dystopian future where I wander around kind of involuntarily jabbing unemployed people who are overweight. That is not the agenda.
This is what happens when you push stories like Labour looking to give these weight loss drugs to people who are overweight and unemployed. It just kind of doesn't make sense the way they kind of put these stories out. I guess you got media framing and stuff like that, but pushing such a story out there in the first place, it's just bizarre.
Actually, I think we've got an opposite challenge. I think demand at the moment, it will be greater than what we're able to meet. So that's the challenge we've got. But this could be game-changing. And if we can throw the trends we're seeing in obesity into reverse, that's better for the health of the nation. It's also for the health of the nation, better for the health of the nation's finances, because we've got to shift from simply treating sickness to actively preventing it. But that's not a substitute for good changes to good diet and nutrition and exercise.
Yeah, if you look at it's just there are a lot of changes they can make instead of pushing these kind of weight loss drugs. I guess that's why he's trying to pull back and say here. But the whole story was around Labour pushing this rather than pushing better sports facilities or things like that. That would make a much bigger change, I think, than these kind of weight loss drugs. But again, like the question is, what did Labour offer Eli Lilly? Because they offered them a trial for these drugs, right? But what else did they? Is that what they offered them in order to get this kind of investment? Because we're looking at a country where they're increasing national insurance contributions for employers. We're looking at other things that employers have complained about, with the Workers' Rights Bill. So the question is, why are Eli Lilly looking to set up here in a place that they've called a small market? But he says you got to do something quite interesting and quite different. This trial for the drugs that they produce for weight loss would potentially be one of them, or could be the only thing. We don't know. But it is a bit strange that they're looking at, kind of moving away from the stronger EU regulations to our own kind of regulatory framework, which will be lesser than the EU's one. That's what concerns me. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.